Mayor,
How's it going?
how are you doing, sir?
Campaign manager.
Miss Connor did indicate she was going to be here. Let me just check and see if she's here.
Well, UNCC alone is going to take the report was 120 pages.
Let's bring this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Connor? Here. Commissioner Cordell?
Here.
Commissioner Fowler?
Here.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Mayor Black?
Here. Let's bow for invitation. Dear God, our Father, we do give thanks unto you tonight for your many blessings upon us here at the town of Ranlo. We thank you, Lord, for the election that we recently had, the support of the community. And Lord, as we go into a new year, we want to give thanks for this season that we're in. We give our praise and glory to you in Jesus' name. Amen. I have a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight.
I just have one addition, Mr. Mayor. Before you tonight, you have the closed session minutes from October 14th, 2021. I would just ask that Commissioner Connor, Commissioner Cordell, and Commissioner Moore sign off on those minutes prior to the adoption of the regular meeting minutes. So if it's agreeable to the board, I'll just add an item 5A, which would be approval of the closed session meeting minutes from October 14th following the adoption of the October 14th regular monthly meeting minutes.
Other than that, do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion, I have a second. Motion, second. Second. All in favor? So good. Next item is the approval of the, next item is the comments from the attendees. Do we have anybody that signed up?
We did have several people indicate that they would like to speak tonight. So I believe it's this lady right here. Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you would come to the podium and just state your name and address. Is that okay?
My name's Evan Clary, and I live in Ranlo. And we got an ordinance in the mail that we could not have livestock or chickens or turkeys or whatever. And we don't have livestock, we got pet chickens. And we also been living there 60 years. And we have had animals ever since we've been there. And so we're not desiring to get rid of them at all. And, so we know whether we got the grandfather clause in it too. We had our chickens before the zoning or anything else come in. We were there before it formed, they formed the town and all. And so I'd like to know what the problem is. So if there's any questions, you can ask me. Thank you very much.
Okay, hang on a minute. Let the commissioners have a chance to ask you any questions that they may have, okay? Does anyone have a question to ask her concerning her chickens? Now, I understand that I've talked to some of the neighbors up in that area, and they said that they do run wild.
Some of them gets over the fence
Very
sometimes, and we're gonna try to fix it where they can't get out. We can cover it up where they cannot get out.
Yeah.
They do jump over the fence sometimes, not all of them, but a few of them.
Well,
So,
we're in the process of adopting some ordinances, new ordinances. Apparently, the ordinance that got you is an old ordinance, so, I think we're gonna try to table any action upon you until afterwards, after the adoption. But understanding this, you most likely are gonna have to have an approved cage for those animals so that they can't roam around the neighborhood,
yeah,
okay?
we'll be glad to fix them where they can.
In the meantime, you probably wanna be doing that, okay? Just try to get them to where they can't get out and roam around in people's yards,
We'll do that.
all right?
Thank you.
Okay.
So to be clear, Mr. Mayor, the board would like to grant an extension to Ms. Clary in regards to the issue of the chickens, because as the ordinance currently reads, she cannot have chickens inside the town limits unless it's in a certain zoning that's 3 acres or more. I can certainly look to provide a revised ordinance which would provide for restrictions, limitations, and the allowances of livestock, or particularly chickens or hens, that I can bring to the board if that's what you all would like to see. And I can certainly have that to you all at the January meeting for review. And if it's the board's consensus, we can cease any type of code enforcement against any homeowners that do currently have livestock, if that is
Well,
the
there's
opinion.
several towns and communities in the area that do allow, that's a whole lot bigger than us, that allows chickens. But there is, procedures and guidelines that they have to follow. Is that correct?
That is correct. When I was city manager in Hamlet, this very issue came up, and we did a very in-depth study looking at what cities and towns allowed them, how they allowed them, what were the restrictions and parameters that they put on that. I'll be glad to bring similar information to the board, as well as a few proposed ordinances which would provide for reasonable amounts of livestock, chickens, hens within the town limits, and then seek more guidance on the direction that you all would like to go in relation to the matter at the January at the January meeting. We would just need to have a public hearing prior to adoption of any changes to that ordinance. So I can certainly do that if that's the desire of the board.
So what brought this issue up, if it's been so long since she's had them, why is it just now coming up?
It's my understanding. There was a complaint. Yes, sir, Commissioner Fowler. It's my understanding there were several of the neighbors that had concerns in regards to the chickens getting out, the chickens roaming, and the chickens being in their yard. If I'm not mistaken, it's what prompted the attention from the Code Enforcement Department. But we have dealt with identical issues over the past, certainly since I've been here, there have been numerous properties that we have addressed where the neighbors complained and the homeowners did comply, and they did have the chickens removed. So this is not the first time that this has been an issue or has occurred here in town since I've been here.
So apparently, right now, the cage that she has them, it doesn't have a top on it, and they are flying out of the top. And that's one of the things that she's willing to correct, as I talked to her on the phone the other week. Yeah, I mean, it'd be up to the board if they would like to revisit this on the January meeting and look at different ordinances, different options that we have.
I think it's worth looking at the options.
So we will table any such enforcement activities in regards to chicken or livestock until such time that the board has a chance to review amended ordinances in relation to the matter, if that is the consensus of the board.
In the meantime, can we sure that we're not ignoring the neighbor's complaint either.
I think the neighbor's complaint was that there was chickens, and currently the ordinance does not allow for
Well,
chickens.
I think the complaint was the chickens was in the jar, not that she had chickens.
I can certainly communicate to the neighbors, I'll have to research to see who made the complaint and reach out to them directly.
I think maybe the point is, let's make sure that whatever we come up with is actually gonna solve the problem and not just make it legal for people to have chickens, but make it so that it doesn't become a nuisance to other people who choose not to have chickens.
That's it. Okay, so we're in agreement, consensus, he has a consensus. Okay, from the board. All right, any other attendees have any comments? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. The approval of the October 14th monthly meeting minutes. You know, have a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second? Ms. Robin? Thank you. All in favor? So carried. All right, new business.
I just need a motion to adopt the closed session minutes that have been signed off on by the board.
Okay, I'll make that motion. I have a motion.
I'll second.
Have a second. All in favor? So carried. Next item on the agenda, swearing in of newly elected officials.
And I was, Mr. Mayor, we have everything prepared for the swearing in. I was going to ask Ms. Locklear and Ms. Connor if they had anything they wanted to say. Unfortunately, Ms. Locklear could not be with us tonight. She had a death in the family, as many of you know, last week, so she was unable to attend. But Ms. Connor, I didn't know if you had something you would like to say, or
Yes,
You would-
what I'd like to say is that I want to thank Ranlo for honoring me with the opportunity to serve as a commissioner for the past 6 years. And the one thing that stands out the most in my mind, that I value the most, is the amount of kindness and respect that I have been given since I have been commissioner for the past 6 years. And it's just my hope and prayer that you all felt like I reciprocated that same respect and kindness that I received. And I thank you all so very much. Thank you, town manager, thank you, mayor, commissioners. It has been quite interesting, to say the least. But I thank you for the honor. Thank you.
Okay. So, Wade Morton, right there, and Mary Rice. I, Lamb Black, solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States and of the state of North Carolina, and that I will, in all respect, observe the provisions of the charter and ordinance of the town of Ranlo, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the mayor of Ranlo.
I, Wade Morton, solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States and of the state of North Carolina. That I will, in all respect, observe the provision of the charter and ordinance of the town of Ranlo, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the commissioner for the town of Ranlo.
I, Trevor Hay, solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States and the state of North Carolina, and that I will, in all respects, observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the town of Ranlo, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the commissioner for the town of Ranlo.
I got it all lined up for you.
No.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations, Mayor.
Next item on the agenda, appointments to various positions.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I think the first order of business would need to be the appointment of a mayor pro tem.
Prior to the meeting, I did speak with Katie, and she was, reluctant, but agreed to continue as mayor pro tem. Usually, we allow the, oncoming commissioner with the most votes, that will be you, Trevor. Do you have any objections?
I have no objection.
Okay. Has it pleased the board that Katie continue as mayor pro tem?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. All right.
And I believe next order of business, Mr. Mayor, would be a representative to the Central Carolina Council of Governments and an alternate to the top.
To Todd. Do we have any volunteers?
I'll go ahead and volunteer for
Trevor?
that one.
Okay.
Also, the alternate.
You'll serve as alternate? Okay.
If we could, yeah.
I'll
just
make
a
a
moment.
motion that we let Trevor serve and Katie be alternate.
Okay.
Have a second?
I'll second that one.
Okay, all in favor? So carried.
Okay, and in regards to the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO, currently, I believe the mayor and the mayor is our representative, and Commissioner Fowler is our alternate. We would just need to either reaffirm those or reorganize that based on the desires of the mayor, Commissioner Fowler, and the board.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. You fine with
I'm
that?
fine.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to leave the same.
I'll second.
All in favor? So carried.
Okay, and lastly, appointments to the planning board. After we revised some of our ordinances over the past year, the creation, consolidation of a planning board and board of adjustments was put into place in ordinance. By law, we have to have certain changes made to our ordinance by June 30th, 2022. Part of that process is it has to formally go through the planning board. The planning board, of course, serves an advisory board as an advisory role to the board in regards to matters such as rezoning, such as parceling of land, such as any type of developments that may be coming into the town. I've been soliciting input for quite some time on the issue. We have 4 members from inside the town limits that will need to be appointed, 1 from the ETJ, and we can do 2 alternates. Currently, I have not been successful in finding a candidate from the ETJ. We currently do not need to have one. We don't have to fill that position tonight. We can hold it open, appointing 4 members, 2 alternates, and then continue to seek a representative from the ETJ. If any of you know anyone that would be interested or have any ideas on someone that would be a good fit, please let us know. But I'm hoping to move forward with the first planning board meeting in January. We'll likely have to have regular meetings January, February, March, April, May in order to get our land use plan and our UDO up to where General Statute 160D says it needs to be. You have before you a list tonight, and also I spoke to Commissioner Locklear a few minutes ago. She indicated that if the board wished, she would be willing to serve on that board if we needed someone else as well. I know Commissioner Connor wanted to serve, and we also have several other candidates. So we would need 4 appointments tonight and 2 alternates from that list.
They'll still have quorum to do any voting.
As long as we have 3 members present, which I hope with having 2 alternates. I'm very glad to see that we did have good feedback, people that did want to serve. I think that we do have a good selection of candidates and enough to have alternates as well.
So, maybe if we split have two individuals on, Denali Court, and then we have two on Pasco Place. So maybe take each one of those and put as an alternate. We wouldn't be stacking it as one street. That would please the board.
Will we also be appointing their terms? Or
Yes.
will-
These, I'm sorry,
Can
I didn't
we-
mean to interrupt.
My question is gonna be, can we just put the terms in a hat at the first planning board meeting and have them draw it out, and then it's just.
Yes, we can do that.
3 years, 2 years, 1 year.
Right. Because I believe, I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but is it 3 members serve at 3-year term?
Yes.
3 members serve at a 2-year staggered term? Yes, we can certainly do a staggered system where there's a random drawing and each individual member would pick their term.
That might be the most, I think the only comment that I have on the list is that, Todd Kepler and Diana Palmer were both on the camper board.
They were.
So since they've already been involved,
Mhm.
we might as well leave them in place.
And to piggyback off that a little bit too, I mean, Robin's been very involved, so she's, I think, would be an asset.
So that would be two individuals on the same street.
You know, I mean, yes, it would be, but that's not a priority for me.
So if you wanna do it.
She did indicate that she would be willing to serve. I just spoke to her, or she sent me a message a few moments ago.
She's definitely been an asset to our town
Yes.
throughout the years. And if she desires to be on that board, I think, we should grant her wish.
We have 4 members to appoint.
We have
Yes.
4 and 2 alternates. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner Hay.
Are we okay doing, Robin and Effie, as well as Todd and Diana to start with? That's 2 former commissioners and 2 that were already on the planning, or on the camper board. And then have Sean and Lee and Jason serve as alternates to start out our planning board here, with them drawing numbers out of the hat or whatever it is for whatever, appointment,
Sure.
terms they have.
The,
Can I get a,
the ordinance calls for 2 alternates, but I do not, as long as there's no issue with the board standpoint, I do not see that there would be a problem with 3 alternates to the committee
I mean, that's just gonna make it so that we have that many more people
Yeah.
that can show up.
for a quorum. Is that in the form of a motion, Commissioner
yes,
Hay?
I'll
So,
say
the motion is who, just to clarify?
Todd Kepler, Dinah Palmer, Robin Connor, Effie Locklear for the 4 in-town members. Sean Skidmore, Lee Adams, Jason Berg as alternates with 1 vacant seat until such time that we can fill it with a member from the ETJ.
Now, will the alternates just serve as that fifth?
No, no. We would operate as a 4-member board until such time that we could have a 5th member. That 5th seat is required to be someone from the ETJ.
So what happens if there's a tie?
If there's a tie between the board, it would. It's a good question. I'll have to research the legalities of that. Yeah, I hope to have somebody in place by the January meeting from the ETJ, but I don't want to give you any legal opinion on that until I research it.
I'll second the motion, man.
Have a second, all in favor? So carried. Next item on the agenda, is that all on the,
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. That's all for the appointment.
it's okay. Presentation from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte regarding the town's American Rescue Act funds.
They're going to be via Zoom, so if you'll give me one moment to get this set up, we'll get them here with us this evening.
Is that in
No, they did not finish up finalizing report in time for the packet. They're going to be presenting tonight. I can get you material afterwards. We were making tweaks up until, actually just month. They just sent it right on time.
Y'all good with that?
It may be better if we maybe keep these on and then.
Yeah.
How's that? I'm going to turn it around so I can see you guys. They know what I look like. Can you guys hear us all right? Good evening. Hey there. How are you guys doing?
Hi, Jonathan.
Hey there.
Hello. Good. How are you?
We just had a little bit of an audio issue. I'm going to see if I can get that tweaked for you guys. Just one moment. Bear with me. Okay, I'm going to restart and start again, so just give me one moment.
On launching, I think you'll be able to.
I think that I hit the wrong thing when I launched the
You'll be
first
able to
time.
drag the sound bar. Test speaker microphone, you might be able to.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
All right, guys, let's try that again. Can you hear us okay?
You might just run
Maybe
the
not.
audio.
Oh.
like it said.
All right, guys, how's that? Can you hear us okay?
Oh, you're on mute.
Third time's the charm. Can you hear us now?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. We are live with our mayor and our commissioners here in Ranlo. We have you up on the big screen. You may not be able to see all of us, but we can see you guys, and you're coming in loud and clear. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much, Jonathan. So I'll give our team a minute to pull up the PowerPoint and get started, and then we'll hand it on over. Thank you all for taking the time to have a meeting to hear the results of the project.
Oh,
Sure, you can see that okay? Elizabeth, you good?
yeah, I think good. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Elizabeth Perry, a member of the MBA class here. And first of all, we want to thank the council for convening this special meeting. We are students of the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, in the Master of Public Administration program. And we're here tonight because you all tasked us with making recommendations for how to spend the $1.17 million in COVID relief funding received this past summer. We're gonna have time for questions at the end, and for now, we are just gonna jump right on into it. You can go to the next slide, Christian. So to start off, Ranlo received $1.17 million in local fiscal recovery funds through the American Rescue Plan Act, which is a piece of federal COVID relief funding. The money must be fully expended by the end of December 2026, and any remaining funds will be sent back to the Treasury. And the Treasury has instructed that there are 4 categories of eligible uses that you can see on the slide. So we've got addressing the negative economic and public health impacts of the pandemic, providing premium pay to essential workers, which is defined in the Treasury's guidance of what an essential worker exactly is. You can also use the money to replace lost revenue as determined by a calculation laid out in the federal guidance. And you can also invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And an update on the broadband infrastructure really quick is we've recently received clarification on what that means in terms of broadband. And the authority is for counties, so Ranlo still does not have really, the broadband doesn't really apply to Ranlo. So this slide, in this project, to write the recommendations, we did research to find out what authority Ranlo has to undertake projects according to both the federal ARPA legislation and under the North Carolina general statutes. So to do this, we asked a couple of questions. We looked around to see what Ranlo's peers were doing with their local fiscal recovery funds. We also surveyed the Ranlo community to understand what the local priorities are. And these 3 set of guiding questions align with 3 lenses of analysis, which helped our group come up with a list of possible projects to fund through ARPA. So what types of projects are eligible per the federal regulation? We found that there are a wide variety of eligible water, sewer, and stormwater projects. The authority for North Carolina governments to undertake broadband projects, like I said, was not clear until recently. The guidance places a heavy emphasis on fixing the negative impacts of the pandemic, especially for groups who are disproportionately impacted, which mostly means low and medium income folks. We also performed the Treasury's lost revenue calculation using the Government Finance Officers Association's template. And we found that at least for FY20, Ranlo does not qualify, but is encouraged to recalculate the lost revenue calculation in following years. And a key takeaway from our research on the regulation is that there is no prohibition against supplanting funds as long as the projects the money is being used for are eligible. So Ranlo may pay for any eligible projects it's already planning to fund, such as capital improvement projects in water and sewer, or potentially vaccine clinics, thereby offsetting general funds and potentially making room in your general fund budget to build fund balance.
Alrighty, and so from a regional lens, what we've done is try to answer the following question: what are Ranlo's peers doing with their recovery funds? So to answer this, we went ahead and we conducted a peer analysis and survey to see what Ranlo's peers were doing. We also did this in a quantitative and qualitative basis. And so what we found were that larger municipalities were more likely to pursue a combination of projects rather than smaller municipalities were more likely to pursue solely infrastructure projects. When we talk about combination of projects, we're really referring to the interim final rules categories of projects, premium pay, investments in infrastructure, and responding to the public health crisis, things along that nature. And so of infrastructure projects, water and sewer remain the most popular. And the key takeaways from this analysis were that water and sewer infrastructure remain a high priority for regional municipalities, and that larger jurisdictions were more likely to engage in community initiatives like direct financial assistance and direct food assistance and aid to nonprofits. Sorry about that. Monster or Zoom. Anyway, local lens, we wanted to answer the following question: what were the town's priorities? And so what we did to answer this question was we had interviews with the town stakeholders and the citizen Advisory Board, and we also felt out some ideas from the community itself. And so what we found was that the Citizen Advisory Board and town staff identified a key need for infrastructure improvements and personal protective equipment from within the town. And then secondly, that the community expressed interest in community investment projects. So the key takeaways here were that water and sewer infrastructure and PPE are key priorities for staff and the Citizen Advisory Board, and the community investments such as the lodge, like we'll get into later, are a key priority for the community. And so before we get into our recommendations, I'd like to show you this project prioritization matrix that our team has come up with. What this matrix is going to do is allow us to break out these projects in 4 quadrants that will rank in order of importance. And it really reinforces our guiding principles of budget stabilization, social equity, and public health compatibility. And so we rank this by community impact and cost of project. And so the first of which on this recommendation ordering here is high impact, low cost projects. Projects that really affect the town but have a lower price tag. And the first of which is direct food assistance to Ranlo citizen. The USDA estimates that food is among one of the top 3 expenses for consumers within the United States, and that tens of millions of Americans face at least some sort of food insecurity. And so this is justified by law under household assistance within the interim final rule, and we've sourced this idea through community interest by talking to the town citizens, and also a regional trend with other local jurisdictions across the state. The impact of this project is to alleviate food insecurity for the town of Ranlo citizens, and we've identified this cost to come out to about $92,000 by using the Gaston County's United Way's estimate of $732 a month for a family of 4. And we estimate that around 126 families are in the town of Ranlo are facing some sort of food insecurity. So it's $92,000 a month, depending on how many months the town would like to pursue such a project. The next project on this list is the community center renovations. And so we've justified this by reconfiguring the space for social distancing and making it more ADA compliant. We've sourced this idea from Express Community Support. And the impact of this project will allow citizens to utilize the community center and drive local engagement. And the price tag for this project is around $30,000. The next project on this list is flume improvements. And flume improvements, it's a water flow device, to measure wastewater flow. And so it's justified under water and sewer infrastructure, specifically drinking water transmission and distribution projects. The impact here is to increase service reliability for your public utility and also reduce repair and maintenance costs. And so the project price here is $85,300. And the last project on the high impact, low cost list is domestic violence training for the town's officers. Amid the pandemic, and especially with the stay-at-home orders in March, we've seen a rise in domestic violence cases across the country. A lot of individuals have not been able to get away from their abusive partners, such as school and work, with the stay-at-home orders. And so justified under law in Section 2A of the interim final rule, and then also talking with the town's police chief, he's also identified this been not only a national trend, but something that's occurred here in the town as well. And so the impact with this is to address the rise in domestic violence associated with the pandemic. And depending on how many officers and courses the town would elect to send officers to training, it's about $200 per officer per course. And so now we get into our low impact, low cost projects that don't really affect the town too much, but they also have a relatively low price tag. And so the first on this list is personal protective equipment for the town. We sourced this idea from a regional and national trend, but also talking to town stakeholders who identified this as a key need. The impact here is to prevent service capacity interruptions and ensure that the town staff is ready and able to work. And so to cover the police department and the public utilities, it's about $15,000 annually. The next low impact, low cost project we have is to cover the administrative costs for ARPA funded projects. Engaging in ARPA projects is a large administrative burden on the town, and so justified under U.S. Treasury compliance and reporting guidance and other regional trends for local jurisdictions who are supplanting costs to cover those administrative costs or outright hiring physicians. That's where we source this idea. And then the impact on the town is just to prevent any undue cost burden that the town might face. And then the estimate if the town were to spend all of its LFRF funds is $116,898. And the last low impact and low cost project we have on this list is to support higher education for Warlock Academy graduates, which is an alternative education site located within the town of Ranlo. Justified under aid to nonprofit organizations and education assistance. And we've sourced this idea from town minutes drawn from a February meeting. It's going to have a significant impact on the lives of the recipients of the scholarship, and it will also increase the likelihood that these recipients will obtain a higher education. If the town were to select 5 recipients of this scholarship at $1,000 a year, it would be $5,000 annually.
All right, so under this low impact to the community and relatively high costs, we've only got one recommendation, which is to replace manhole covers. And this project is sourced from Ranlo's Sanitary Sewer Capital Improvement Plan and was listed as planned for fiscal year 2021. Sewer infrastructure like this is clearly eligible under ARPA, and this $100,000 is about the estimate that was provided in the CIP. There are 4 projects that will have a big community impact and also a little bit of a higher price tag. First, we recommend that Ranlo begin a 10-year replacement schedule for its water meters. Through our initial meeting with Mr. Blanton back in August, and also in reviewing many past council meeting minutes, we learned that there have been some issues with inaccurate billing due to aged water meter infrastructure. And we think that it's really important that a portion of all meters be replaced each year. We drafted a replacement schedule under the assumption that it could be beneficial to replace, eventually build the cost of replacing a portion of the water meters into Ranlo's regular general fund budget or water sewer fund. And we propose that these ARPA funds can bridge the gap for the next 5 years. If the suggested replacement schedule is implemented, then Ranlo could potentially replace half of all water meters by 2026 using local fiscal recovery funds. We also recommend that the lodge be renovated to accommodate social distancing. This lodge is a key community space, so renovations will greatly benefit the community who really need a safe space to gather. And these renovations could include expanding the deck, replacing the HVAC, and upfitting outdoor shelter. And modifications such as these could enable the lodge to be used for public health purposes in the future, such as vaccination events, even if they're not necessarily related to the pandemic. The cost of renovations on the lodge could be anywhere between about $150,000 to $550,000, just depending on which renovations the town needs most. Third, we've gathered that the roadway at Boulder Court is in need of some improvements, but we want to point out that only the stormwater portion of this project is eligible under the ARPA legislation, not the roadway improvements. We know that these improvements will make a big difference to the community and are also highly requested. And finally, our last recommendation is to fund the replacement of the Burlington Avenue 8-inch aerial crossing, which in layman's terms, the project will replace old water pipes. And this project is also sourced from Ranlo's capital improvement plan, and is also clearly eligible. The CIP flagged it as a high priority item, so we think that this would be a great use of funds.
Alrighty, and just some conclusions. We wanted to start off with some limitations to our research. So at the time of this presentation, the U.S. Treasury's final rule has not yet been released, which will help alleviate some of the ambiguities that were brought up with the interim final rule. The surveys that we have conducted on both a regional and a local basis are meant to be illustrative and not representative. Third, the cost estimations of our projects may fluctuate due to economic conditions, such as labor and supply shortages and the rise of inflation. And fourth, the impact of the North Carolina budget. Ranlo is slated to receive over $6 million from the state, and some of the projects that Ranlo may engage in with that money may also be covered in this report. And some future considerations to consider here are that recovery funds such as this could provide key infrastructure needs that the town desperately has. Secondly, community investment initiatives are a must for the town citizens. And lastly, more details about reporting and compliance are located further in the report. Alrighty. Well, this project would not be possible without the help of all of the individuals listed here, and probably some that are not. First, all of the town staff have been greatly monumental for providing information to us and then providing us their time. Our municipal peers who allowed us to conduct qualitative interviews. Our professors, Dr. Piatek and Mr. Walton, have been monumental for their mentorship throughout the duration of this project. And the Citizen Advisory Master Planning Board members have also been very influential in sourcing these local ideas that the town may have. So thank you very much. God bless, and we'll now turn it over to questions.
Okay, first question. On the 10-year meter replacement, I didn't catch a price tag on that. Do you have a price tag on?
Yeah, let me just go back to that slide. We're estimating it would be about $482,000 for half of the water meters to be replaced, and that is based on the 2020 quote from Waterworks Incorporated. So that price could vary, especially given the supply chain shortages we're seeing now. And but based on that quote, this is what it seems like it would cost for half of the meters.
Okay.
Have we already received any funding from that from the state budget for the water meters?
Okay.
Okay. I had a question on the food assistance. I guess how do we go about distributing that food assistance if we were to move forward with that to, healthy food for anyone in our town? Is it through an organization, or is it through, what would be how would we alleviate the food insecurity?
Hi, yes, my name's Katie Jones. So with the food assistance program, it's really going to be up to what the town thinks is going to be the best for its residents. You have multiple opportunities to partner with local nonprofits, or even partnering with other government entities, like partnering with Gaston County, who is already implementing some programs like that. And the extent to which you participate in is just kind of up to what you guys are comfortable with. You do also have the option to do programs in-house, but your money might go further and impact more people if you do partner with another organization.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. For the community center, you're talking about the trailer over here by the park, right?
House.
In regards to the community building, that she's differentiating between the community building and the lodge. Those were both looked at separately and independently, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And what was the cost for that?
For the community center, $30,000, and there is a range of costs depending on what specific projects you guys would like to engage in. So the cost for the lodge could be anywhere between $150,000 and $550,000.
Okay.
And these costs are sourced from CDBG and previous grant applications.
Okay. And then for the domestic violence courses, how many would we anticipate? That might be a question for you.
16.
Sorry, could you, I heard that, I couldn't quite hear the question. I heard it was about the domestic violence program, but I didn't hear the last half of the question.
Sorry, I think I got the answer from Chief Lunsford. 16 officers and how many courses?
That would be up to you guys. We priced ours from the National Sheriff's Association. However, there are other programs available like this. One of the programs we saw was just for first responders, so your police officers, but there was also a course, like a sister course that would be given to your dispatch. So 911 operators and things like that. So it's really up to you. There are more courses available, but the one that we focused on was one course at about $200 per officer. And then we also in the report suggested, because there are other municipalities in the area who could also benefit from this, and there might be a cost sharing initiative, because the more officers you have partake in the event, the cheaper it is for everybody.
That's it, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you very much for all the time and effort that you put into this presentation, and we will surely consider it and try to fulfill these obligations and spend the money appropriately, of course. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, UNC Charlotte, this
Thank
is
you.
their final project before they graduate with their master's degree in public administration. So they've spent their entire semester researching this project
Wow.
for us, so we greatly appreciate their time and energy.
Someday you'll have to come by and visit us.
We love to.
All right, you know where to find us, right? We're at the bottom of Spencer
Absolutely.
Mountain. All right, thank you so much. All
Good
right.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, that was very informative.
Yeah.
So,
Jonathan,
Yes.
you said that they, did they send over that information? in
They
Word
did.
document, or-
I had a 112-page full report that they have done for us. I was working with them up until today to make the final tweaks on it. I will send that out in the morning, and I'll also ask for a copy of their presentation as well. But they have done an excellent job. I went through their entire full report, and they really dug into the details and really got into the weeds of a lot of things. So they did an excellent job.
so when is it that we can start spending this money?
We've received half already. We've received a little over $500,000 that was allocated to us in July. The remainder will be coming hopefully July 2022. We are really on pause waiting for the final rule from the Treasury on what we can and cannot use. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that we did was come up with a very detailed spending plan, and UNC Charlotte has done that for us in case we are audited, in case there are issues surrounding the investment of the fund. So I think this was a very good first step to compare what other municipalities are doing to see where the best utilization of these resources are, and then come up with a concise plan going forward. So hopefully, the early part of the year we can move forward with tentative timelines on when we can expect some action on these projects.
Something that I would like to see, if at all possible, is, after the final rule comes out, a list of recommendations from you, because there were quite a few things on there that the state has already allocated money for.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't wanna
Right.
have to double up.
Sure.
And the feasibility of using the nonprofits in our town, I think, would, on the food, would be
Right.
Very beneficial for both
Mhm.
the nonprofits and the community.
Some of the municipalities in Gaston County have already allocated some money towards some of the Chamber of Commerce's to engage in some of these projects that they discussed on tonight, and other projects for economic development and enticement. And I know that there's been talk about pairing, I believe, with the United Way in order to deliver some of these services. So certainly finding a third-party private partner to help with some of these services could help do things that we're not legally able to do that they can do. So
We look at our local churches and also the Potter's House,
Right.
who's been, all awesome in helping the town throughout the years, and, it's an opportunity to maybe, help them to help others.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Certainly good options and opportunities.
All right, next item on the agenda, adoption of our local water supply plan.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Before you tonight, you have the 2020 local water supply plan. The North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality has approved the supply plan. They just asked for a resolution from the board adopting the plan. It has to be brought into compliance and updated, I believe, every 5 years. But Jason did an excellent job getting everything submitted, as he is our operator now for our water and sewer. So our water supply plan has been accepted. We just need a motion to approve the resolution for the plan.
All right, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? So carried. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of proclamation recognizing Gaston County's 175th anniversary.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The county reached out to see if the town would pass a proclamation recognizing the county's 175th anniversary. They are having a celebration on December 21st, of which we all have been invited to. That's going to be at the Rotary Pavilion in Gastonia. I'll, of course, update you guys and send out a reminder a little closer to the time. But this is a model resolution that they provided that other municipalities here in the county have adopted that recognizes the 175th anniversary of Gaston County.
And we're not obligated financially.
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
And we have a second. All in favor? So carried. All right, next item on the agenda is the adoption of our 2022 meeting and holiday schedule.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, but you have before you tonight the meeting dates for the Board of Commissioners, which are all scheduled for the second Thursday of each month at 7 p.m., as well as one special budget meeting on the first Thursday in March, and also dates for the Planning Board, which coincide the week after the board meets, and then the list of Administrative Office and Public Works Department holidays for 2022.
All right. Do we have a motion to agree? Accept?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
I have a second. All in favor? And so carried. All right, next item on the agenda is a mid-year financial overview and discussion regarding direct allocations.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. We are doing very well for this point mid-fiscal year. I had been in touch with the State Treasurer's Office today. We had a very good dialogue regarding where we are, as we are the only municipality on Gaston County's in Gaston County on the unit assistant list. I kept them up to date with some internal budget amendments that we've made, small amounts for things that have not, for example, administration. We were $43.14 over in code enforcement, so we made some internal budget amendments, and I wanted to give the State Treasurer's Office as much detail as possible, as so to foster goodwill with their office in the hopes that we can get off that UAL in the next couple of years. I did make them aware that I was going to be bringing some proposals to the board tonight for funding. The proposals that I am bringing to you all tonight do not include any allocation from the projected fund balance. For the fiscal year 22, I made that clear to the State Treasurer's Office today that the projects that I am suggesting that we fund can be made up for other places in the budget. We have done very well with salaries, with some open positions that we have. We have money that we have not allocated towards those positions. Sales tax and property taxes have come in strong. I still feel very confident that we will be able to meet our target goal of the money that we are projecting to put back into fund balance in both the utility fund and the general fund. But I did provide the State Treasurer's Office with all of this information. They've just asked for a formal mid-year budget amendments once they are provided, which I hope to have for you all February, March. So that is good news. That is very good news from the State Treasurer's Office. They're very pleased with our progress. They are going to include us on the 23 unit assistant list, so we'll have to do similar to what we did last year. Send in a copy of our draft budget for them to review. They'll send feedback. We'll tweak accordingly, and then I'll get the clearance for adoption of our budget ordinance in June. So I feel very good about that. I'm very proud that we have made such good progress. Very happy to see that the State Treasurer is happy with our progress. On that same note, even better news out of Raleigh since we last met. We did receive word that our direct allocations were provided for in the state budget. Senator Kathy Harrington, Representative John Torbett came through for us and came through in a big way to the tune of $6.5 million. Now, that is funding for the project. That essentially funds everything that we asked for. So that is very exciting, transformational. I am very pleased and very appreciative of the board's support in that resolution that we passed last March. Raleigh really heard our plea, and for the first time since Governor Cooper took office, we were able to get a budget passed, and it provided for significant funding for Ranlo. So next step forward, the mayor touched on that a moment ago, and I wanted to address that a little more in depth. I met with our engineer this week. We put together a tentative timeline on prioritizing what projects we're going to tackle first when the money does hit. We are looking at incorporating the suggestions that UNC Charlotte has provided in regards to the American Rescue Fund Act. And a conversation I did have with the university was we did receive word that we'd received these allocations kind of late in the semester. So they had already put in a lot of work and time in some of these projects. I feel confident that we can expand on some of these projects with the ARPA funds and with the direct appropriation, particularly in the South Ranlo water improvements. Hopefully we will be able to fund everything from Booker, Redland, Neely, Branch, all the way to Ryan, Love, East Long, North Franklin, this entire area through here with some of these projects and some of these funds that we are going to be receiving. Starting in January, I would like to start the proposals for engineering services for some of these projects, and then hopefully by the end of January, we can select an engineer for the request for proposals to help manage these projects, and then start looking probably around April with undertaking some of these projects with the water meter replacement, hopefully doing that in 2 phases. One slated to begin April 16th, the second August 1st, and then one of the projects that I'm proposing tonight is design standards and details. That will provide a checklist, specific material, specific product that has to be used for water lines, sewer lines, roadway improvements, storm drain improvements, highly technical engineering services that will provide a roadway for any type of growth development or renovations that are done. So I'm hoping that within the next 6 months we'll see some real progress and movement on this, and hopefully by the end of 22 be able to show some deliverables from the money that we have received. So I am very proud to report that the State Treasurer's Office is pleased with the progress that we've made. Incredibly excited about the show of support that Senator Harrington and Representative Torbett gave us in the General Assembly budget, and I feel confident that we're in a strong financial position at this point in the fiscal year. So I wanted to give you that update. We'll have formal budget amendments coming in the next couple of months. Glad to address any questions or concerns you may have about the budget at this point in the fiscal year.
I do have a question, I guess,
Sure.
of sorts. Being that inflation numbers have come out and they're not very good, is there any way we could provide a pay increase or a pay adjustment to our employees to match the inflation numbers that have come out?
I did see those inflation numbers as well. If I'm not mistaken, they're around 6%, that the numbers that were released. We did not provide for a pay increase in this current budget, nor did we provide for one in the previous budget that we passed, fiscal year 20 budget. Any type of pay raise would be at the discretion of the board. I would defer to any input or advice that you all may have on the matter. We have, like I said, we've saved money in the finance director's position, partly for the fiscal year. So roughly around 22,500 in that position. 2 of our water positions in the water department have been open a few months now that we've been able to put some of that money aside. And we intentionally, in regards to salary, we did intentionally overproject the amount that we were going to be budgeting for, just to be on the safe side. So, I mean, I do feel confident we are going to be coming in under what we thought we would on salaries. So, any type of pay adjustment, any type of salary increase would, of course, be at the discretion.
Where's the line item at right now, at percentage?
Sure.
I did a little bit of number crunching, and I think we were projected to come over $100,000 under budget at the end of the year.
And that would match really close with what we are. Just in administration alone, we haven't hit 50% in salaries for this point in the fiscal year. We're just right at 40. That's in administration. In governing bodies, we're spot on there because it's easy to project. We're right at 50%, exactly 50%. Again, recreation, we're using the salary money in there to fund one public works employee that's taking care of the grounds, taking care of the lodge, taking care of the ball fields. We're not at 50% there yet. Police department, we're at 48%, so we're right on where we should be there. Public works, 35%, because we have held open some of those positions.
So, also, I mean, when you look at inflation hitting our employees, it also is hitting our residents too. And we did have a substantial tax increase and also use increase. I think it was, of course, our water we had to go up on it, and, trash pickup. So is there areas there that we would be able to, I mean, I've gotten that question. I
Right.
reckon you have too.
Oh, yes, sir.
You got this,
Right.
$6.5 million grant, or we're gonna go down on taxes.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you got it.
I've been asked that several times, and usually my response has been that the money that we're getting from Raleigh is to fund projects that we were not in a position to fund. We knew we needed to fund these projects, but we could not, even with the rate adjustments. And two, I do cite the state treasurer's office and the recommendations that they made before we were able to adopt our budget with the deficiencies in the utility fund running at a $346,000 loss over the past few years, and the disparity in the general fund balance. So most of those recommendations, yes, the board adopted them, but they were at the direction of Raleigh and the direction of the state treasurer's office and the local government commission. So unfortunately, they did tie our hands by requiring that we send our budget ordinance in, requiring us to send all documentations and details into them. So most, if not all, of those fees and those adjustments were at the request of Raleigh.
I know when we were walking around talking to individuals during the campaign process, that was the big question I got was, it's killing us. The tax increase is killing us. The water rates is killing us. And a lot of people, and, it's like, well, it's like everybody else. We're gonna have to buckle down, try to use less water. That's one way that you can lower your water bills.
And the tax rate is, it cannot be adjusted. I mean, tax bills have already been generated. We've already collected a significant amount of tax revenue. That, of course, went into effect for the July 1 fiscal year budget.
I think that, I would like to make a motion, if it's okay, to provide a cost of living adjustment, of 6% to all town employees,
I'll second that one.
effective January 1st.
And Madam Mayor Pro Tem, you indicated you'd done some numbers. Do you know roughly what that would cost? Right on. If not, I can certainly do
I
that.
would say it was around $50,000, and that's projecting for a full year's worth, so around $25,000 to $30,000 for half a year.
And the motion was for 6%,
Yes.
effective January 1.
Yes.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Yeah.
All in favor? Any questions?
What do you foresee the state treasurer's office feelings about that?
They were agreeable when I took them the proposals that I was bringing to the board tonight. They appreciated that I was keeping them in the loop. I will be glad to draft this was just informal conversation emails between my contacts at the state treasurer's office with the local government commission director CC'd on that email. I will be glad to prepare, if the board so wishes, a more formal memorandum to their office explaining our current financial condition, explaining the money that we've saved, explaining the budget amendments that are going to be presented January, February, to keep them in the loop. I would not want to speak on behalf of the state treasurer's office in regards to the matter. We did send them a budget that they signed off on us to approve. They have been pleased with our progress, and they have been requesting updates on the budget. So I can't say with 100% certainty what they would say in regards to that.
My concern would be that they would come back, say, why are we adjusting the budget after they've approved it? That would be my concern.
Well, and something that we were cited on in our audits is that we did not do regular budget amendments throughout the year for some of the outstanding audits, that they were kind of taken care of at the last minute. That's something that we have done over the past couple of years, regular budget amendments, to show that we're keeping an eye on the finances quarter to quarter. So I think that they were very pleased to see that I had done the internal budget amendments already with taking care of some of even the most smallest $43 of overages and clearing some of that up. And I did make it clear that we do have funds that are not going to be expended throughout this fiscal year, but I cannot say for certain what a 6% pay increase or the dollar amount, how that would be perceived from
My thoughts on that are, let's make them tell us no.
Okay, any more discussions? All right, all in favor? We have 4 in favor, all opposed? 1. Okay, so carried. How's that all on that?
I'm sorry, I got distracted there, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I believe so.
All right, consideration of the in-focus proposal.
Oh, I'm sorry, before we move to the next item, I had a question for Jonathan.
Oh, yes, sir, Commissioner Powell. Oh,
Um, You mentioned the changing of the, water meters with your discussions with the engineer.
yes.
Would that be following the 10%, the 10-year plan, or is that
Well,
changing 50% of this? What's that mean?
We've looked at it from 2 directions. 1, we replace the ones that we know are in the greatest need of being replaced. And then 2, we look at updating all of them at one time. The benefit to updating them all at one time is that we could move to a centralized electronic platform where all of the meters across town could be read right here in Town Hall. They could be cut off right here in Town Hall. If there's a leak or unusual usage, it would be able to be readily seen here in Town Hall. The downfall would be that at the end of the life expectancy of the meters, they're all going to be outdated, but that's something we can plan for. It would likely be most advantageous for us to replace them all at one time, so you don't have some meters that have to be manually read, some that have to be read here in Town Hall, so you have a more centralized platform, and then perhaps putting in the budget each year a certain amount of funds that are going to be dedicated towards the replacement of water meters and not letting them get to that mark, start doing preventative maintenance on them beforehand to have a plan. So that has been a conversation that we've had. I'll, of course, keep you all updated and bring those recommendations and suggestions prior, because that's going to be a $900,000 project. We're going to have to do formal bids. We're going to have sealed bids come to the board, and the board award those bids. So we can certainly bid it out as both ways and then see which way is the most advantageous. But my concern would be we would be able to get a better deal if we got more, and the supply shortage that is currently in place for most items. So we'll certainly explore both of those options, Commissioner Powell.
Is that system, is that the one that has to have antennas throughout the town?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. And that $900,000 was turnkey. I mean, that was all of the meters, the installation, everything. It was under at the time that we priced it, and I did reach out a couple weeks ago. It's still around that $900,000 threshold. The only issue is the supply shortage, being able to get them here once they are ordered.
And the funding for that, would that be from the state or would it be from the health share?
Yeah. The good thing about the money from the state is they funded all of the capital improvement projects that we requested. So likely,
Their recommendation, we would have more money. Their recommendation to
Yes.
funnel somewhere else.
right.
Okay, we're done. Next item of the agenda is consideration of in-focus proposal.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I sent you all a few weeks ago, and you should have before you tonight a copy of a proposal from InFocus. InFocus undertook Lowell's revisions to their land usage plan, their UDO, as well as, I believe, the city of Gastonia. We made a lot of changes in regards to 160D and the changes from the legislature earlier this year. I originally intended to put together just a basic land usage plan, but with some of the inquiries that we've received over the past few months with some development, some of the inquiries that we've received in regards to some of the growth, I think it's best that we have a very tight land usage plan, unified developmental ordinance. Currently, we have a very basic land usage plan that is not in compliance with general statute with the general statute deadline of June 30th, 2022. I think that this is a good plan that would focus on zoning, that would focus on revising all of our ordinances, such as the issue with livestock, and working with a professional engineering group that has done this with numerous cities and towns across the state, smaller cities and towns. This provides for the drafting of a unified developmental ordinance, a UDO, updating our land usage plan, and it also provides for 2 years of support to that plan. I've negotiated that half of the price can be paid out of this fiscal year and the remainder paid out of next fiscal year. I did speak to the state treasurer's office in regards to this very project today and submitted them areas for where this could be funded in the current budget without dipping into fund balance or without making any major changes to the budget. So the issue would be just an internal budget amendment that we would make for our own internal housekeeping purposes and not taking money that was not already budgeted for to fund the project.
there is room in our budget